My estranged mother RSVP'd to my wedding under a fake name. Security caught them. The security guard's voice crackled through my earpiece at exactly 2:47 p.m., 43 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. Bride, we have a situation at the north entrance. 2 individuals matching your descriptions. The woman is claiming to be Sarah Martinez from your college sorority, but she's with an older man who keeps calling her Linda. My hands, which had been steady all morning despite the typical wedding jitters, started trembling as I held my bouquet of white peonies. Sarah, my maid of honor, immediately stepped closer when she saw my face go pale in the bridal suite mirror. It's her, I whispered into the tiny microphone clipped to my dress. It's my mother. I should have felt surprised, but honestly, I'd been expecting this for weeks. Linda Vasquez, my estranged mother, had a talent for inserting herself into situations where she wasn't wanted. The fact that she'd somehow discovered my wedding venue, date, and time despite me blocking her on every social media platform and explicitly asking our mutual family members not to share details wasn't shocking. It was just Linda being Linda. What did surprise me was how prepared I felt. 2 years ago, when I finally cut contact with her after she showed up uninvited to my apartment and spent 3 hours screaming at me through the door about what an ungrateful daughter I would have crumbled at this news. I would have spiraled into panic, maybe even considered calling off the wedding entirely rather than deal with the inevitable scene she'd create. But hiring Morrison Security Services for $850 was the best money I'd ever spent. Copy that, came Marcus Morrison's calm voice through the earpiece. We're handling it now. Continue with your preparations. This is exactly what you're paying us for. Through the bridal suite window, which overlooked the venue's parking lot, I could see a small commotion near the entrance. Marcus, a former police officer built like a linebacker, was speaking to a woman with familiar dark hair wearing a navy dress that was definitely too formal for a guest but not quite formal enough to upstage the bride, a calculated choice that screamed Linda Vasquez. Next to her stood a man I didn't recognize, probably in his 60s, looking increasingly uncomfortable as Marcus checked his clipboard. She RSVP'd under a fake name, I said, more to myself than to Sarah. She actually RSVP'd as Sarah Martinez. Sarah's eyes widened. Wait, your mom knows about me? She Facebook stalked all my friends before I blocked her. Sarah Martinez was my sorority little sister junior year. Linda would have remembered that name from my old posts. I watched through the window as my mother gestured dramatically at Marcus, her voice clearly raised even though I couldn't hear the words from this distance. She probably figured using a name connected to college would be believable enough to get past a casual guest list check. The irony wasn't lost on me. Linda had always prided herself on being clever, on staying 3 steps ahead of everyone else's plans. She'd probably spent weeks crafting this scheme, imagining herself walking into my wedding reception and delivering some grand speech about forgiveness and family that would guilt me into taking her back. But for once in my life, I'd been 4 steps ahead instead of scrambling to catch up. Marcus's voice returned to my earpiece, they're refusing to leave voluntarily. Proceeding to phase 2. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and smiled at my reflection. Good, I said. Phase 2 turned out to be Marcus calmly explaining to my mother and her mystery companion that this was private property and they needed to leave immediately or he'd call the police. I could see him holding up his phone, probably showing them that he already had 911 dialed and ready. The man with Linda, who I was now dying to know more about, seemed to be trying to convince her to walk away. He kept touching her elbow and leaning in to whisper something, but Linda was having none of it. Even from 3 stories up, her body language screamed defiance. Arms crossed, chin raised, that familiar stance that meant she was about to make everyone else's problem into a much bigger problem. Your mom's really going full Linda right now, Sarah observed, peering over my shoulder. She'd witnessed enough of my mother's dramatic episodes during college to recognize the warning signs. My phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Maya, *OMG your mom just called my mom asking for your venue address. Aunt Rosa didn't give it to her but Linda was pissed. She kept saying something about teaching you a lesson about family loyalty. This was like an hour ago, heads up. Asterisk. An hour ago, I said, showing Sarah the text. She was still trying to get the address an hour ago, which means. I trailed off, thinking. Which means she already knew where the venue was when she called Aunt Rosa. She was just trying to make it seem like she was still fishing for information. The pieces were clicking together in a way that made my stomach churn. Linda hadn't just stumbled across my wedding details, she'd been planning this for a while. Long enough to research fake names from my college years. Long enough to recruit some random man as her +1 to make the RSVP look more legitimate. Long enough to time her fake inquiry to Aunt Rosa so it would seem like a desperate last-minute attempt instead of a calculated manipulation. Ma'am? Marcus's voice in my earpiece again. The male companion is now claiming they drove 4 hours to get here and asking if they can just attend the ceremony, not the reception. He's saying they don't want any food, just want to see the bride get married. I nearly laughed. Classic Linda, recruit some well-meaning guy to be the voice of reason while she played the heartbroken mother card. I bet she told him some sob story about how I cut her off over a misunderstanding and how she just wanted to see her only daughter's wedding day. Absolutely not, I said firmly. Phase 3, whatever that is. Sarah squeezed my hand. You're being so calm about this. Are you okay? Was I okay? I did a quick mental inventory. Heart rate elevated but not panicked. Hands still slightly shaky but functional. No urge to cry, scream, or hide in the bathroom. No part of me was considering whether I should just invite her in to avoid a scene. I'm actually fine, I said, surprised by my own answer. Like, this sucks and I hate that she's doing this, but I'm not falling apart. I planned for this exact scenario. It was true. When I'd hired Morrison Security 3 weeks ago, I'd given Marcus a detailed briefing about Linda's history of boundary violations. The time she'd shown up to my college graduation despite being explicitly uninvited. The time she'd crashed my birthday dinner at a restaurant by calling ahead and adding herself to the reservation. The time she'd somehow gotten my work schedule and ambushed me in the parking garage. Marcus had listened to all of it without judgment and then asked me one simple question. What do you want the outcome to be if she shows up? My answer had been immediate. I want her gone without me having to deal with her at all. Then that's what we'll make happen, he'd said. And apparently, that's exactly what was happening. Through the window, I watched Linda point aggressively toward the building while Marcus remained completely unmoved, his arms crossed and his expression professional but firm. Phase 3, his voice crackled through the earpiece, is police backup. ETA 4 minutes. The police arrived at exactly 3:14 p.m. with no sirens, just 2 officers in a patrol car who parked quietly near the north entrance. I watched Officer Chen, I could read her nameplate from the window, approach Marcus while her partner, Officer Rodriguez, positioned himself between Linda and the venue entrance. That's when Linda made her first tactical error. Instead of playing the victim card with the police, which honestly might have worked in her favor, she immediately went on the offensive. Even 3 stories up with the windows closed, I could tell she was yelling. Her arms were flailing, she kept jabbing her finger toward the building, and at one point she actually stepped closer to Officer Rodriguez in what any reasonable person would interpret as an aggressive move. Your mom just threatened a police officer, Sarah said, her voice a mixture of awe and horror. Like, physically threatened him. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Marcus texting me directly. Asterisk, she just told Officer Rodriguez that you stole money from her and used it to pay for this wedding. She's demanding they arrest you for theft. Need you to know this might get complicated. Asterisk. I stared at the text, my earlier calm evaporating. She's telling the police I stole money from her. What? That's insane. You haven't even talked to her in 2 years. She's talking about my college fund. The words came out flat, emotionless. When I turned 21, my grandmother's trust transferred to my name. Linda had been managing it, and she'd borrowed from it over the years. When I cut contact and moved the remaining money to my own account, she claimed I was stealing from her. It was $23,000. $23,000 that was legally mine, had always been legally mine, but Linda had been using as her personal emergency fund for years. She'd taken money for car repairs, credit card payments, even a vacation to Cancun with her boyfriend at the time. When I discovered this and confronted her, she'd screamed that she'd invested 21 years of her life in raising me and deserved compensation. That fight had been the final straw before I cut contact. But you have documentation, right? Sarah asked. Bank records, trust documents? At home. Not here. My wedding dress suddenly felt too tight. What if they actually want to investigate this? What if they delay the ceremony? Through the window, I could see Officer Chen talking into her radio while Linda continued her animated explanation. The mystery man who'd come with her was now standing about 10 feet away, clearly trying to distance himself from whatever chaos he'd gotten dragged into. Marcus's voice returned to my earpiece. Bride, I need you to stay calm. Officer Chen wants to verify some information, but this is not going to derail your wedding. We're handling it. Your ceremony will start on time. But Linda wasn't done. As I watched, she pulled out her phone and appeared to be showing something to the officers, photos or documents, maybe fake evidence she'd prepared to support her theft claims. My mother had always been thorough in her manipulations. She planned this whole thing, I said, the realization hitting me like cold water. The fake RSVP, bringing some random guy as backup, even the theft accusations. She knew if she got the police involved, they might actually have to investigate. She's trying to legally force her way into my wedding. Sarah grabbed my arm. Look. I looked down to see Officer Rodriguez walking toward the building entrance, speaking into his radio. He was coming inside. Ma'am, Marcus's voice was tighter now. Officer Rodriguez is coming up to speak with you briefly. Just to verify your identity and relationship to the complainant. This is routine when someone makes accusations about theft. 5 minutes max, then we proceed with the wedding as scheduled. My heart was hammering now. In 23 minutes, I was supposed to be walking down the aisle toward David, toward our future, toward the life I built away from Linda's chaos. Instead, I was about to be questioned by police about crimes I didn't commit, accusations my mother had probably been crafting for weeks. But as I heard footsteps in the hallway outside the bridal suite, I realized something had shifted inside me. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was furious. The knock on the bridal suite door was soft but official. Officer Rodriguez's voice carried through the wood. Ms. Vasquez? I'm Officer Rodriguez with the Metro Police. Could I speak with you for just a few minutes? Sarah squeezed my hand before opening the door. Officer Rodriguez was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes that immediately assessed the situation. Bride in wedding dress, maid of honor in pale pink, bouquets and makeup scattered across elegant furniture. Ma'am, I apologize for the timing of this, he said, stepping just inside the doorway. I understand you have a ceremony starting soon. I just need to verify a few details about a complaint that's been made. About the money, I said. It wasn't a question. Yes. The complainant, Linda Vasquez, claims you withdrew $23,000 from an account that belonged to her in March of 2022. She's saying it was theft and that you used the money to pay for today's wedding. I could feel my jaw clenching. Even now, even on my wedding day, Linda was trying to rewrite history. Officer Rodriguez, that money came from my grandmother's trust. My grandmother, Elena Vasquez, set up the trust when I was born with my mother as the custodian until I turned 21. When I discovered Linda had been taking money from it without my knowledge, I transferred what was left to my own account. How much was originally in the trust? The question hit like a punch. $47,000. My grandmother left me $47,000. Linda spent $24,000 of it over 6 years on things like car payments and vacations. I only got to save what was left. Officer Rodriguez was taking notes. Do you have documentation of this trust? At home, yes. Bank records, the original trust documents, everything. But officer, she's not here because of missing money. She's here because I didn't invite her to my wedding. This is just her trying to force her way in. Through the window, I could see Linda pacing near the police car, gesticulating wildly at Officer Chen. The man she'd brought with her was now sitting on a bench with his head in his hands. Ma'am, can I ask about your relationship with your mother? When did you last speak? October 15th, 2022. She came to my apartment uninvited and spent 3 hours screaming at me through the door. Before that, it was constant boundary violations. Showing up at my work, calling my friends, creating scenes at family events. I finally had to cut contact completely. Sarah stepped forward. Officer, I can verify this. I helped her move apartments specifically because Linda kept showing up uninvited. We had to get a doorman building just so she couldn't get to the elevator. My phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Maya. * Linda just posted on Facebook that you're having her arrested for loving you too much and asking people to call the venue to talk sense into you. The post already has 47 comments. Most people are calling her crazy, but some of your aunts are buying it. *. Oh, she's posting about this on social media, I told Officer Rodriguez, showing him the text. She's trying to create a public narrative where she's the victim. He frowned. That's not typically how innocent people handle police matters. That's exactly how Linda handles everything. I checked the time on my phone, 3:21 p.m. 14 minutes until my ceremony. Officer, I understand you have to investigate complaints, but she's done this before. In 2021, she called my job claiming I was embezzling from them. In 2020, she told my landlord I was dealing drugs to try to get me evicted. She weaponizes authority figures when she doesn't get her way. Marcus's voice crackled through my earpiece. Update, the male companion just told Officer Chen that Linda contacted him on a dating app 3 days ago and offered to pay his gas money if he'd attend a family event with her. He thought he was helping a lonely woman reconcile with her daughter. He had no idea about the fake RSVP or the theft accusations. I nearly laughed despite everything. Officer, the man she brought with her? She apparently recruited him online 3 days ago. This whole thing was premeditated. Officer Rodriguez stopped writing and looked up at me. She hired a stranger as her plus one? According to my security team, yes. He was quiet for a moment, processing this information. Outside, I could hear Linda's voice getting louder, more shrill. Officer Chen was no longer taking notes, she was just standing with her arms crossed, clearly losing patience. Ms. Vasquez, Officer Rodriguez said finally, I think we have enough information here. This appears to be a civil matter at best, and given the circumstances. He gestured toward the window where Linda was now pointing accusingly at random wedding guests who were starting to arrive. Well, let's just say the complainant's behavior isn't supporting her credibility. Relief flooded through me, but it was quickly replaced by something else. Determination. What happens now? I asked. Now you get married, he said, closing his notepad. And we escort your mother off the property. But Linda wasn't done yet. Just as Officer Rodriguez was putting away his notepad, my earpiece crackled with Marcus's voice. We have a problem. She's now claiming she has a medical emergency and needs to see you before she dies. Through the window, I watched my mother suddenly clutch her chest and stumble backward against the police car. Officer Chen immediately moved toward her, and I could see her speaking rapidly into her radio, probably calling for an ambulance. You've got to be kidding me, I breathed. Officer Rodriguez's radio swapped to life. Rodriguez, we need medical backup at the north entrance. Female, approximately 55, claiming chest pains and difficulty breathing. My mother had just faked a heart attack at my wedding. She's not having a medical emergency, I said firmly. She did this exact same thing when my cousin got engaged. And when my aunt divorced her husband. And when I graduated college without inviting her to the ceremony. But Officer Rodriguez was already heading for the door. Ma'am, we have to take any medical emergency seriously. I'll be back. The moment he left, Sarah rushed to the window. Oh my God, Rachel. There's an ambulance coming. She's lying on the ground now. I looked down to see Linda flat on her back in the parking lot, one hand pressed dramatically to her forehead, the other still clutched over her heart. The poor man she'd recruited from the dating app was hovering nearby, looking like he wanted to disappear into the pavement. Several of my early arriving wedding guests had gathered at a respectful distance, whispering among themselves. My phone was buzzing constantly now. Texts from family members who'd seen Linda's Facebook post, texts from friends asking if the sirens they heard were related to the wedding, texts from David's groomsmen wondering if they should delay getting ready. But the text that made my blood run cold was from my Aunt Rosa, *Mija. Linda called me crying saying you had her arrested and now she's having a heart attack. She's begging me to convince you to let her stay for the ceremony. She says if something happens to her, you'll never forgive yourself. What's really going on? She's manipulating the whole family, I said, showing Sarah the text. She's making them think I'm the monster who had my own mother arrested and caused her to have a heart attack. Through the earpiece, I could hear Marcus coordinating with the EMTs who'd just arrived. Blood pressure normal, heart rate normal, oxygen levels normal. Ma'am, we're not detecting any signs of cardiac distress. But Linda's voice carried clearly through the open ambulance doors. Please, I just need to see my daughter get married. I drove so far, and we had a misunderstanding, and I think the stress of her having me arrested triggered my heart condition. Heart condition. She'd never mentioned a heart condition in her entire life. The EMTs are saying she needs to go to the hospital for evaluation, Marcus's voice reported. She's refusing to go unless you agree to see her first. She's telling them you're her only child and she can't bear to die without making things right. 3:27 p.m. 8 minutes until my ceremony. My wedding guests were streaming around to the south entrance now, trying to avoid the chaos at the north side. I could see David's parents arriving, his mother's face creased with worry as she took in the ambulance and police cars. My own guests looked confused and embarrassed, probably wondering what kind of family drama they'd walked into. Ma'am? Marcus again. The EMTs are saying they can't force her to go to the hospital if she's conscious and refusing treatment, but they also can't just leave her here claiming to have chest pains. They're asking if you'd be willing to make a brief appearance just to resolve the situation. Absolutely not, I said immediately. The moment I go down there, she wins. She gets exactly what she wanted, to be the center of attention at my wedding. But even as I said it, I could see how this was going to play out. Linda would milk this fake medical emergency for as long as possible, keeping the ambulance and police cars in my wedding venue parking lot, making every single guest walk past her dramatic performance to get inside. My phone rang. David. Hey, his voice was tight with controlled worry. I'm getting some conflicting reports about what's happening out front. Are you okay? My mother crashed the wedding, lied to police about me stealing money, and is now faking a heart attack because her first plan didn't work. Silence on the other end. Then, of course she is. This was why I loved David. No shock, no demands that I try to make peace with her, no suggestions that maybe I should just talk to her. Just acceptance that Linda was exactly who I told him she was. The EMTs want me to come down and talk to her, I continued. She's refusing medical treatment unless I agree to see her. What do you want to do? I looked out at the parking lot, where Linda was now sitting up on the ambulance stretcher, gesturing emphatically at the EMT while pointing toward the building. At the police officers who were clearly losing patience. At the growing crowd of my wedding guests who were getting their first real taste of Linda Vasquez in action. I want to get married, I said. I want to marry you at exactly 3:35 p.m. like we planned, and I want her drama to be someone else's problem. Then that's what we're going to do. David, I love you for that, but how do we actually make it happen with this circus in the parking lot? Leave that to me, he said, and hung up. Before I could ask Sarah what he meant, Marcus's voice came through my earpiece. Ma'am, we have a new development. The groom is approaching the ambulance. I pressed my face to the window and watched David stride across the parking lot in his black tuxedo, looking like he was heading into a business meeting instead of approaching my hysterical mother. He went straight to the EMT and began speaking in what I recognized as his courtroom voice, calm, authoritative, getting straight to the point. What is he doing? Sarah whispered. Within 30 seconds, I had my answer. David pulled out his phone and appeared to be showing the EMT something on the screen. The EMT nodded, then turned to Linda and said something that made her face go red with rage. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Asterisk showed the EMT screenshots of her Facebook posts from the last hour, including the one where she asked people to help her teach you a lesson. EMT says they can't transport someone for fake symptoms and she needs to leave the property or be arrested for trespassing. Asterisk. Linda's heart attack recovery was miraculous. She went from clutching her chest and gasping for breath to standing up and shouting at David in about 15 seconds flat. The EMT was packing up their equipment while Officer Chen approached Linda with what was clearly a final warning. Your fiancée just ended her entire performance, Sarah said, grinning. Look at her, she's furious that someone called her bluff. Through the earpiece, I could hear Marcus coordinating the final removal. Officers are giving her 60 seconds to leave voluntarily or face arrest for trespassing, filing a false police report, and misuse of emergency medical services. The poor man from the dating app had already disappeared. I could see him speedwalking toward a beat-up Honda Civic at the far end of the parking lot. Smart guy. But Linda wasn't going quietly. She was now marching toward the building entrance, waving her arms and shouting something I couldn't quite make out from 3 stories up. Officer Rodriguez stepped directly into her path, and I watched her actually push against his arm. That was her second tactical error. She just put her hands on a police officer, I said, my voice eerily calm. She actually pushed Officer Rodriguez. The next 60 seconds moved like a movie. Officer Chen approached from behind while Officer Rodriguez kept Linda's attention. There was a brief struggle, Linda trying to pull away, the officers firmly but professionally restraining her, and then Linda Vasquez was in handcuffs. Marcus's voice, target is in custody. Parking lot will be clear in approximately 3 minutes. Ceremony can proceed as scheduled. I checked my phone, 3:32 p.m. 3 minutes until my walk down the aisle. My phone exploded with notifications. The family group chat was going insane. Apparently Linda's Facebook live stream of her arrest for loving her daughter had been broadcasting the entire incident, including her fake heart attack, her confrontation with David, and her decision to physically resist police officers. A text from my cousin Maya, asterisk holy shit Rachel, the Facebook live caught everything. She forgot to turn it off. Everyone can see her admitting the chest pains were fake and calling you names I won't repeat. Aunt Rosa is pissed at her now. Asterisk. Another from my Uncle Roberto, asterisk Mija, your mother just humiliated herself in front of 200 plus people on Facebook. The whole family saw her push that police officer. You don't owe her anything after this. Asterisk. And then one from my Aunt Rosa that made me smile, asterisk I'm so sorry I doubted you. Get married and be happy. Linda needs help we can't give her. Asterisk. Through the window, I watched the police car drive away with Linda in the back seat, still gesticulating wildly. The ambulance followed, the EMTs probably grateful to respond to an actual emergency. The parking lot looked normal again, just wedding guests in nice clothes heading toward a celebration. David appeared in my doorway, slightly out of breath but grinning. The coast is clear, Mrs. Chen-to-be, he said. Ready to get married? I looked at myself in the mirror one final time. My hair was still perfect, my makeup intact despite everything. The wedding dress my grandmother's trust money had helped pay for, money that was rightfully mine, legally mine, and morally mine, looked exactly like I dreamed it would. I've never been more ready for anything in my life, I said, and meant it completely. The ceremony itself was perfect. Every single minute of it. As David and I exchanged vows in front of 127 guests, I felt lighter than I had in years. No part of me was scanning the crowd for Linda's face or listening for her voice over the string quartet. No part of me was bracing for an interruption or waiting for the other shoe to drop. For the first time in my adult life, I was experiencing a major milestone completely free from her chaos. But Linda wasn't done yet. During cocktail hour, while our guests mingled on the terrace overlooking the gardens, Marcus appeared at my elbow with a grim expression. Mrs. Chen, he said quietly, we have a situation developing. Your mother made bail about 40 minutes ago. My champagne flute stopped halfway to my lips. Already? The charges were relatively minor, trespassing, resisting arrest, filing a false report. With no prior criminal record and that man from the dating app vouching for her character, she was released on her own recognizance. Marcus glanced around to make sure no guests were listening. She's not legally prohibited from being in the general area, just from this specific property. David appeared beside me, immediately reading my expression. What's wrong? Linda's out of jail, I said simply. Marcus continued, my colleague stationed at the perimeter just reported seeing her at the Starbucks across the street. She appears to be using their Wi-Fi to post extensively on social media. My phone had been blissfully silent during the ceremony, tucked away in Sarah's purse per wedding tradition. Now I pulled it out to find 47 missed calls, 23 voicemails, and 156 text messages. The Facebook notifications were relentless. Linda had been posting nonstop for the past hour. Asterisk just released from jail where I was taken for the crime of loving my daughter too much. The police officers admitted they had no legal right to arrest me but did it anyway because my daughter's new husband bribed them. Asterisk. Asterisk for everyone asking, yes, I am sitting across the street from my daughter's wedding reception right now. Yes, I can see my own child celebrating while I sit here with a criminal record because I wanted to hug her on her wedding day. Asterisk. Asterisk the man my daughter married just proved he will call the police on a 55-year-old woman for trying to attend her only child's wedding. What kind of marriage starts with imprisoning the mother of the bride? Asterisk. Each post had dozens of comments and shares. My extended family, David's family, old friends, even people from my high school were all witnessing Linda's public meltdown in real time. She's live streaming again, David said, looking at his own phone. Someone from the office sent me the link. Well. She's giving a play-by-play of our reception from the Starbucks window. I looked across the street and sure enough, I could see Linda's silhouette in the coffee shop window, phone held high, clearly filming our terrace where guests were laughing and taking photos. This is insane, I breathed. She's literally providing running commentary on my wedding reception to Facebook. Marcus cleared his throat. Ma'am, there's more. She's been calling the venue's main line repeatedly asking to speak with you. When they explained she's banned from the property, she claims she left her medication in the parking lot during the arrest and needs to retrieve it for a medical emergency. More fake medical emergencies, David said grimly. The venue manager is asking how you'd like to handle it. They're getting multiple calls now, some from your family members who saw her posts, some from strangers who think they're helping a wrongfully arrested mother, and some from reporters. My blood went cold. Reporters? Local news picked up the story from her Facebook live streams. Mother arrested at daughter's wedding is apparently trending on local social media. Channel 7 has a news van en route. This was my worst nightmare. Not only was Linda ruining my wedding day, she was making it public entertainment. In a few hours, there would probably be a news segment about the heartless bride who had her own mother arrested, complete with footage of Linda's tear-filled testimonials from the Starbucks across the street. What are our options? I asked Marcus. Legally, she can sit in that Starbucks as long as she wants. She can film the building's exterior from a public location. She can post whatever she wants on social media. The only thing she can't do is set foot on this property. So she's going to sit there for the next 4 hours broadcasting my entire reception to Facebook? Unless we can convince her to leave voluntarily. David was scrolling through the Facebook comments on Linda's posts, his jaw getting tighter by the second. Rachel, you need to see some of these comments. They're really buying into her version of events. He showed me his phone. Mixed in with comments from family members who knew better were dozens from strangers. Asterisk, this is heartbreaking. No mother should be treated this way. Asterisk. Asterisk, the bride sounds like an entitled brat. Your mother gave you life. Asterisk. Asterisk, I'm crying watching this. Please keep us updated, Linda. We're all praying for you. Asterisk. Asterisk, someone should call that venue and tell them they're hosting a monster. Asterisk. But then I scrolled further and found the comments that made me smile. Asterisk, Linda, everyone can see you lied about the heart attack. This is embarrassing. Asterisk. Asterisk, ma'am, you literally live-streamed yourself admitting the medical emergency was fake and then assaulted a police officer. We all saw it. Asterisk. Asterisk, this woman is unhinged. That bride was right to ban her. Asterisk. My cousin Maya had been busy in the comments, posting screenshots of Linda's earlier posts where she'd explicitly talked about teaching me a lesson and making me pay for disrespecting family. She'd also shared photos from family events over the years showing Linda's pattern of dramatic outbursts and scene-making. The tide is turning, I realized. People who actually know her are calling her out publicly. And she streamed her own arrest, so there's video evidence of everything. Marcus nodded approvingly. Social media works both ways. She's not controlling the narrative as much as she thinks. My phone rang. The number was blocked, but I had a sinking feeling I knew who it was. Rachel? Linda's voice was honey-sweet, the tone she used when she wanted something. Sweetheart, I know you're busy with your party, but I really need to talk to you. I stared at David's phone screen, watching the blocked number flash. Every instinct screamed at me to decline the call, but something stopped me. Maybe it was curiosity about what new manipulation Linda had crafted, or maybe I was finally ready to hear her voice without falling apart. Put it on speaker, David said quietly. Marcus should hear this too. I accepted the call. Hello, Linda. Oh, sweetheart. Her voice cracked with fake emotion. I'm so glad you answered. I've been sitting here across the street just watching you celebrate, and I realized something important. I could see her silhouette in the Starbucks window, phone pressed to her ear, her other hand gesticulating wildly. What's that, Linda? I realized that I've been going about this all wrong. I don't need to be at your reception. I just need 5 minutes. 5 minutes to apologize for everything and give you your grandmother's ring. My breath caught. What ring? Your grandmother Elena's wedding ring. The one she wanted you to have when you got married. I've been carrying it in my purse for 2 years, waiting for the right moment to give it to you. David's eyes widened. He knew how much my grandmother had meant to me, how devastated I'd been when Linda claimed there was nothing left from her estate except the trust fund. You told me Grandma didn't leave any jewelry, I said carefully. I know. I was so hurt when you cut me off that I held on to it. I thought maybe someday we'd reconcile and I could give it to you properly. But sitting here watching you get married without me, I realized I'm being selfish. You should have it today. Marcus was already shaking his head, mouthing trap at me. But the possibility that Linda actually had my grandmother's ring, the delicate platinum band with tiny diamonds that I remembered from childhood, made my chest tight with longing. Prove it, I said. Send me a photo. Oh honey, I don't know how to do that texting picture thing. But I can describe it, it's the platinum one with 7 small diamonds, and there's an inscription inside that says Mi Amor Eterno, Roberto 1958. My knees went weak. That was exactly right, my grandfather's inscription to my grandmother on their wedding day. There was no way Linda could have known those specific details unless she actually had the ring. Where has it been for 2 years? I asked. In my jewelry box at home. I know I should have told you. I was angry and hurt, and I thought if I gave you everything right away, I'd have no reason to ever see you again. Linda's voice was getting smaller, more vulnerable. But Rachel, I'm your mother. I love you more than anything. I just want to hand you this ring and tell you I'm proud of you, and then I'll leave. I promise. Through the Starbucks window, I could see her wiping her eyes. For the first time all day, her body language looked genuinely emotional rather than performative. She's lying, David said quietly, though he looked uncertain. This is just another manipulation. But Marcus was frowning, checking something on his phone. Mrs. Chen, I hate to say this, but our background check did show that your grandmother's estate went through probate with several items listed as personal effects distributed to family. There could be pieces your mother retained legally. My heart was pounding. I'd grieved that ring along with everything else Linda had claimed was lost or sold for estate taxes. The thought that it existed, that my grandmother's wedding ring could be on my finger within minutes, was almost overwhelming. 5 minutes, Linda continued through the phone. I'll meet you at the edge of the property line. You don't even have to let me on the grounds. I'll hand you the ring, say congratulations, and drive home. I swear on your grandmother's memory. The parking lot fell silent except for the distant sound of the string quartet and my guests' laughter. Linda invoking my grandmother's memory felt like a line being crossed, but it also felt like the kind of detail she wouldn't fabricate. Rachel, David said softly, whatever you decide, I'm with you. I stared across the street at Linda's silhouette, my grandmother's ring potentially just minutes away from being back where it belonged. But something Marcus had said earlier was nagging at me. Linda, I said, still on speaker, what's the name of the man you brought with you today? What? Why does that matter? Just answer the question. A pause. His name is Robert. Robert Martinez. I looked at David, who was already pulling up something on his phone. And how do you know Robert? We've been dating for a few weeks. He offered to drive me here for moral support. David showed me his phone screen, a screenshot of Linda's Facebook post from an hour ago where she'd written, *, the kind stranger who offered to help me reconcile with my daughter has now abandoned me at the police station. I don't even know his real name. *. That's interesting, I said, because an hour ago you posted on Facebook that you didn't know his real name. Silence. And Linda? Our security footage shows you meeting him for the first time in the parking lot. You handed him something, probably money, and spent 5 minutes explaining what you wanted him to do. More silence, then, Rachel, that's not, you're getting distracted from what's important here. I have your grandmother's ring. Marcus was typing rapidly on his phone. After 30 seconds, he showed me the screen, a probate record for my grandmother's estate. Elena Vasquez's wedding ring was listed as bequeathed to granddaughter Rachel Vasquez, to be held in trust until marriage. Linda, I said, my voice getting harder, according to Grandma's will, her ring was supposed to be held in trust until my wedding day. If you have it, you've been violating the terms of her will for 2 years. That's not how it worked. The lawyer said family members could hold personal items. Which lawyer? Because I have the probate records right here. Through the Starbucks window, I could see Linda's posture changing. The vulnerable, emotional body language was shifting back to defensive and aggressive. You know what, Rachel? I'm trying to do something nice here. I'm trying to give you something that belonged to your grandmother, and you're interrogating me like I'm some kind of criminal. You literally are a criminal now, David pointed out. You were arrested 3 hours ago. For loving my daughter too much. For trespassing, filing false police reports, and assaulting an officer, I corrected. Linda, do you actually have my grandmother's ring, or is this just another manipulation? The pause was too long. When Linda finally spoke, her honey-sweet tone was completely gone, replaced by the sharp edge I knew so well. Fine. You want the truth? I sold it 2 years ago when you stole my money and left me with nothing. I sold your precious grandmother's ring to pay for groceries because my own daughter abandoned me. There it was. The real Linda, finally dropping the act. But you described it perfectly, I said. The inscription, the 7 diamonds. I wore that ring for 6 years while I was taking care of your dying grandmother. Of course I remember what it looked like. My chest felt hollow. Not because the ring was gone, I'd already grieved its loss once, but because Linda had just spent 10 minutes crafting an elaborate lie designed to lure me into a face-to-face confrontation. She'd used my love for my grandmother as bait, knowing exactly which emotional strings to pull. So there's no ring, I said flatly. There could be, if you'd stop being so stubborn and talk to your mother like a decent human being. Maybe we could work something out. Marcus was making a cutting gesture across his throat, clearly signaling me to end the call. But I wasn't done yet. Linda, I have one more question. What? Was any part of today actually about loving me, or was it all about winning? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. When she finally answered, her voice was cold and flat. What's the difference? I ended the call. David's hand found mine as I stared at the now silent phone. Across the street, Linda's silhouette was rigid in the Starbucks window, and I could see her jabbing aggressively at her phone screen, probably crafting her next Facebook post about how her heartless daughter had hung up on her. I'm sorry about the ring, David said quietly. I'm not, I realized, surprising myself. I mean, I'm sad it's gone, but I'm not sorry I know the truth. She was going to use my grandmother's memory to manipulate me one more time, and I caught her. Marcus cleared his throat. Ma'am, we may have a new problem. That news van just pulled into the Starbucks parking lot. I looked up to see a white van with Channel 7 News emblazoned on the side, positioning itself directly across from our venue. A reporter was already getting out, smoothing her blazer and checking her appearance in the van's side mirror. They're going to interview Linda, I said, the realization hitting like ice water. She's going to be on the evening news talking about how I had my own mother arrested at my wedding. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, * Rachel, people are starting to ask questions about the police cars and ambulance. Should I tell them anything or just deflect? *. Another from my cousin Maya, * the news is here? Linda is live streaming herself getting ready for an interview. She's putting on lipstick and everything. This woman is unhinged. *. And then one that made my stomach drop, from my Uncle Roberto, asterisk Mija. Linda just called me crying saying she offered to give you Elena's wedding ring and you screamed at her and threatened to have her arrested again. She's saying you completely lost your mind with power. What really happened? Asterisk. She's already rewriting history, I told David, showing him the text. By tomorrow, the story will be that I violently rejected her peace offering and threatened her with more jail time. Through the window, I could see the Channel 7 reporter approaching the Starbucks entrance. Linda had clearly spotted her because she was suddenly animated again, waving from inside the coffee shop. Mrs. Chen, Marcus said carefully, you have options here. We can't stop her from talking to reporters, but we can control your side of the narrative. What do you mean? Well, she's been live streaming all day, which means there's a digital record of everything, including the phone call where she admitted to lying about the ring and selling it. Social media works both ways. David was already nodding. Rachel, we have documentation of everything. The fake RSVP, the false police report, her admitting the medical emergency was fake, her changing story about the dating app guy. Not to mention witness statements from the EMTs and police officers. You're saying I should talk to the news? I'm saying you don't have to let her control the story, Marcus replied. But it's completely your choice. This is your wedding day, you can stay inside and enjoy your reception while Linda makes herself look foolish on camera, or you can set the record straight. My phone rang again. This time it was my Aunt Rosa. Mija, I just want you to know, whatever Linda is about to tell that reporter, half the family isn't buying it anymore. We saw the Facebook live streams. We saw her admit she lied about being sick. Tia Rosa, No, let me finish. Your mother called me 20 minutes ago with some story about offering you Elena's ring and you rejecting it cruelly. But then my daughter showed me the probate records online. Rachel, that ring was supposed to be held in trust for you. Relief flooded through me. You believe me? Honey, I've been watching Linda's behavior for 30 years. Today was just the first time it was all caught on camera. The family is talking, and most of us are horrified by what we've seen. Through the window, I watched the Channel 7 reporter enter the Starbucks. Linda immediately approached her, gesturing dramatically toward our venue. Tia, there's a news reporter interviewing Linda right now. I know, Mija. Your cousin Maya is watching the live stream. Listen to me, whatever you decide to do about that reporter, you have family support. Linda doesn't speak for all of us. After I hung up, I stood quietly for a moment, watching my wedding reception continue around me. My guests were laughing, dancing to the jazz quartet, taking photos in the garden. David's college friends were attempting some complicated group selfie near the fountain. My coworkers from the marketing firm were deep in animated conversation with David's law school buddies. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and in many ways, it had been. But Linda's presence across the street felt like a storm cloud on the horizon, threatening to overshadow everything beautiful about today. What are you thinking? David asked. I'm thinking, I said slowly, that I spent 2 years hiding from Linda's chaos instead of confronting it. And maybe that ends today. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Ma'am? Set up the interview, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. If Linda wants to make this public, then let's make it public. All of it. The Channel 7 reporter, Jessica Martinez, according to the channel that was already running on their live stream, had set up directly in front of the Starbucks window. I could see Linda positioning herself in the background, occasionally waving at the camera while the reporter did her intro. This is Jessica Martinez reporting live from what should have been a joyful wedding celebration, but has instead become a family drama that's captivated social media. I'm here with Linda Vasquez, whose daughter had her arrested earlier today for allegedly trying to attend her wedding. Marcus had moved quickly once I'd made my decision. Within 10 minutes, he'd contacted Channel 7's assignment editor, explained that the bride wanted to provide her perspective, and arranged for a second reporter to come to our venue. The whole thing felt surreal, giving a news interview in my wedding dress, but Linda had made this public, and I was done letting her control the narrative. Mrs. Chen, Marcus said, adjusting the small microphone on my dress, remember, you have documentation for everything. Stay calm, stick to facts, and let her own words do the damage. Through my earpiece, I could hear Linda's interview beginning. Jessica, I just wanted to see my only daughter get married. I made some mistakes in how I went about it, but what mother wouldn't do anything to be part of the most important day of her child's life? David squeezed my hand. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do, I said, watching Linda's performance through the window. She's over there telling thousands of people that I'm a monster who had my loving mother arrested for no reason. Our future kids are going to Google this someday. Our friends, our coworkers, everyone we know will see her version if I don't speak up. The second Channel 7 news van pulled into our venue's circular drive at exactly 4:47 p.m. Reporter Kevin Walsh emerged with a cameraman, both looking slightly overwhelmed by the scope of the story they'd walked into. Mrs. Chen? I'm Kevin Walsh. Thank you for agreeing to speak with us on what I know is an incredibly difficult day. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to set the record straight, I replied, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. As Kevin's cameraman set up, I could hear Linda's interview continuing through my earpiece. My daughter has been influenced by some very negative people who convinced her that her own mother was toxic. This new husband of hers actually called the police on a 55-year-old woman for trying to attend her daughter's wedding. Mrs. Vasquez, Jessica's voice responded, we have reports that you used a false name to RSVP to the wedding. Can you explain that? I was desperate, Jessica. When someone you love cuts you out completely, you do desperate things. Yes, I used my daughter's friend's name because I knew if I used my real name, they wouldn't let me in. Kevin Walsh was checking his notes. Mrs. Chen, before we start rolling, can you walk me through the basic timeline? Your mother says she was arrested simply for trying to attend your wedding. That's not accurate, I said. Linda RSVP'd under a false identity, Sarah Martinez, who was actually my maid of honor. She brought a stranger she'd met on a dating app 3 days ago and told him it was a family reconciliation. When security stopped them for using fake names, she filed false police reports claiming I'd stolen money from her. When that didn't work, she faked a heart attack. When the EMTs determined there was no medical emergency, she physically pushed a police officer. Kevin's eyebrows raised. You have documentation of all this? Marcus stepped forward with a tablet. We have security footage, recorded police interactions, social media posts where she admits to several of these things, and witness statements from EMTs and officers. Through the earpiece, Linda's interview was getting more dramatic. The money issue is very painful to discuss, Jessica. My daughter took $23,000 from an account with my name on it and used it to pay for this very wedding. When I tried to explain this to the police, they arrested me instead of investigating the theft. Kevin was scanning Marcus's documentation on the tablet, his expression growing more serious. Mrs. Chen, these are some pretty significant accusations your mother is making across the street. Linda is referring to my grandmother's trust fund, I explained. My grandmother Elena Vasquez set up a trust when I was born, with Linda as custodian until I turned 21. The original amount was $47,000. When I gained access at 21, there was only $23,000 left. Linda had spent the rest on personal expenses over 6 years. And you have proof of this? Bank records, trust documents, everything. The money that paid for this wedding was legally mine, it was always legally mine. Linda is calling it theft because she'd been treating my inheritance as her personal emergency fund. Kevin was quiet for a moment, processing. Through the earpiece, I could hear Jessica asking Linda about the medical emergency. Mrs. Vasquez, some viewers are saying that video footage shows you recovering very quickly from what you described as a heart attack. I was having a panic attack, not a heart attack, Linda replied smoothly. The stress of being accused of theft by my own daughter, combined with the trauma of having police called on me, triggered a severe anxiety response. When I saw my daughter's new husband approaching me aggressively, the panic subsided because I thought he was finally going to let me talk to her. The way Linda could pivot and reframe everything was almost impressive. She'd gone from heart attack to panic attack to anxiety response without missing a beat, making each version sound reasonable and sympathetic. Mrs. Chen, Kevin said, your mother is portraying this as a misunderstanding that escalated. She says she was willing to leave peacefully if she could just speak with you briefly. That's not true, I said firmly. Linda has a documented pattern of boundary violations going back years. The fake RSVP, the false police report, the staged medical emergency, none of this was spontaneous. This was a calculated plan to force her way into an event she wasn't invited to. Through the earpiece, Jessica, I think people need to understand that my daughter has been manipulated by people who benefit from keeping us apart. This man she married today gains financially from her having no family support system. I felt my jaw clench. Now she's attacking David. Kevin nodded grimly. We're rolling in 30 seconds. Just remember, stay factual, stay calm, and let the documentation speak for itself. As the camera light flicked on, I took a deep breath and prepared to tell the truth about Linda Vasquez to anyone willing to listen. This is Kevin Walsh reporting live from what has become one of the most dramatic wedding days we've ever covered. I'm here with the bride, Rachel Chen, who wants to respond to serious allegations made by her estranged mother just moments ago. The camera's red light felt like a spotlight, but I kept my voice steady. Kevin, I want to be very clear about what happened today. My mother, Linda Vasquez, used a false identity to RSVP to my wedding. When our security team stopped her, she filed false police reports, faked a medical emergency, and ultimately assaulted a police officer. Through my earpiece, I could hear Linda's interview continuing across the street. What people don't know is that Rachel's new husband is a lawyer who specializes in elder abuse cases. He makes money by convincing people to cut off their aging parents and claim their assets. This whole wedding was funded by money he helped her steal from me. My blood ran cold. She just accused David of elder abuse fraud on live television. Kevin's expression darkened as his producer's voice came through his own earpiece. Mrs. Chen, your mother is making some very serious accusations about your husband's profession and your finances. How do you respond? David works in corporate law, not elder law. And the money Linda is referring to as my grandmother's trust fund, money that was legally mine from birth, held in trust until I turned 21. I pulled out my phone, showing Kevin the probate documents Marcus had found. These are the original trust documents showing that Elena Vasquez left $47,000 to me, with Linda as custodian. When I gained access to the account, Linda had spent $24,000 of it on personal expenses. Kevin was reading over the documents when his earpiece crackled again. He held up a finger, listening intently, then looked at me with surprise. Mrs. Chen, I'm getting word that your mother just made another claim live on air. She says she has your grandmother's wedding ring and tried to give it to you today as a peace offering, but you refused to see her. I almost laughed. 30 minutes ago, Linda called me claiming she had my grandmother's ring. She described it perfectly, 7 diamonds, platinum band, inscription from 1958. She said if I'd meet her for 5 minutes, she'd give it to me. And? When I asked her to prove she had it, she eventually admitted she sold it 2 years ago to pay for groceries after I stole her money. I looked directly into the camera. Linda used my grief over my grandmother to try to manipulate me into a face-to-face meeting. When that didn't work, she went back to the news and made up a story about me rejecting her peace offering. Kevin's producer was clearly feeding him information in real time because he kept pausing to listen to his earpiece. Mrs. Chen, our other crew is showing Linda's Facebook livestream from earlier today. In one video, she appears to admit that the medical emergency wasn't real. That's correct. She also admitted on social media that she hired a stranger from a dating app to pose as her plus one, and that she was planning to teach me a lesson about family loyalty. Through my earpiece, Linda's voice was getting more desperate. Jessica, what people need to understand is that my daughter has been brainwashed. She's not the sweet girl I raised. This man has turned her into someone cold and calculating who would have her own mother arrested on her wedding day. Kevin was getting animated now, clearly realizing the scope of the story. Mrs. Chen, are you saying your mother has been contradicting herself throughout this entire incident? I'm saying Linda has told at least 6 different versions of today's events, and we have documentation disproving most of them. I gestured toward the venue behind me. Kevin, I planned my dream wedding for 8 months. I invited 127 people I love and trust. The one person I didn't invite was someone who has spent years violating my boundaries and creating chaos at family events. Today, instead of respecting my wishes, she chose to turn my wedding into a public spectacle. My phone started buzzing frantically. Text after text was pouring in as people watched both interviews simultaneously. From Maya, * Linda just said David convinced you to have her committed to a mental institution last year. Now she's claiming elder abuse. This woman is spiraling. Asterisk. From Aunt Rosa, asterisk Mija, she's lying about the mental institution. We all know that never happened. Asterisk. From David's mom, asterisk Rachel, we're all watching. You're handling this beautifully. Linda is making herself look completely unhinged. Asterisk. Kevin was listening to his earpiece again, his eyes widening. Mrs. Chen, your mother just claimed that you had her involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility last year. Is there any truth to that? Absolutely not, I said firmly. I haven't had any contact with Linda in over 2 years. I have no legal authority to have anyone committed to anything, nor would I want that authority. The lies were escalating by the minute, each one more desperate than the last. Linda was throwing out accusations faster than anyone could fact-check them, hoping something would stick and paint me as the villain. But as I watched Kevin's expression grow more skeptical with each new claim his producer reported, I realized Linda was finally doing what I'd never been able to do myself. She was showing the whole world exactly who she really was. The interview continued for another 10 minutes, with Linda's accusations becoming increasingly wild and contradictory. By the time Kevin wrapped up, she had claimed I was involved in identity theft, had stolen her car, was hiding her grandchildren from her, David and I don't have kids, and had somehow manipulated the police into falsifying their reports. Mrs. Chen, thank you for your time, Kevin said as the camera stopped rolling. I have to say, in 15 years of journalism, I've never seen anything quite like this. Marcus approached with his tablet. Ma'am, Linda's Facebook livestream just ended abruptly. My colleague across the street says she threw her phone and stormed out of the Starbucks. The reporter is still there, but Linda appears to have left the area. Relief flooded through me until Marcus continued, however, she's not going home. Our perimeter team spotted her car heading toward the church where you had your ceremony this morning. My stomach dropped. The church? Why would she go there? Unknown. But Mrs. Chen, there's something else. During her final Facebook livestream, Linda gave out your new married name and mentioned that you work at Harrison Marketing. She also said David works at some corporate law firm downtown that helps people steal from their elderly parents. David appeared at my elbow, having finished coordinating with his groomsmen about the dinner seating arrangements. How did it go? He asked, then immediately read my expression. What now? Linda went to St. Catherine's, I said. And she doxed us on Facebook Live. Kevin Walsh was packing up his equipment but overheard. Mrs. Chen, I should mention, we'll be running both interviews on the 6 p.m. news tonight. Based on what we've documented, I think viewers will be able to draw their own conclusions about credibility. As the news crew departed, my phone started ringing with an unknown local number. Rachel? This is Father Martinez from St. Catherine's Church. My heart sank. Father, I'm so sorry. Is my mother there? She was, yes. She came in about 20 minutes ago claiming there had been an emergency with your wedding ceremony this morning, that someone had been injured and she needed to collect personal items you'd left behind. That's not true, Father. We didn't leave anything, and no one was injured. I suspected as much when she couldn't tell me what the alleged emergency was or what items she was looking for. When I asked for identification to verify she was family, she became quite agitated and accused me of being part of a conspiracy to keep her from her daughter. I closed my eyes. What happened? She demanded I give her the name and address of your reception venue. When I explained that I don't give out parishioners' private information, she began shouting that I was going to be responsible when something terrible happens because I wouldn't help a mother reach her child. David was already pulling out his phone to call our venue security, but Marcus held up his hand. He was receiving information through his own earpiece. Father, did she leave? I asked. Yes, but Rachel, I'm concerned about something she said. As she was leaving, she mentioned that if she couldn't get to you today, she'd make sure everyone knows the truth about what kind of person you are. She said she was going to every newspaper and TV station in the city tomorrow morning. After I hung up, Marcus delivered his update. Linda's car was spotted at 3 different locations in the past hour: the Marriott downtown where Channel 12 News is located, the offices of the city paper, and most recently, the law offices of Brennan and Associates. Brennan and Associates? David's face went pale. That's a personal injury firm. They specialize in elder abuse and exploitation cases. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. She's not just going to the media, I said. She's trying to find a lawyer who'll take her case. She's going to sue us. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk Rachel, this is Linda. Since you refused to speak to your mother, you'll be hearing from my attorney instead. Enjoy your stolen wedding. Asterisk. She found a lawyer, I said, showing David the text. On my wedding day, at 5:30 p.m., my mother found a lawyer. Marcus was typing rapidly on his phone. Ma'am, Brennan and Associates specializes in cases where adult children allegedly steal from elderly parents or manipulate them out of assets. If Linda convinced them she has a case, we could be dealing with a lawsuit that drags on for months, David finished grimly. Even if we win, it'll cost thousands in legal fees and turn our personal business into public record. I looked around at my wedding reception, where my guests were still celebrating, completely unaware that my mother had just escalated from crashing my wedding to potentially suing me for my grandmother's inheritance. She's never going to stop, I said quietly. Even after today, even after making herself look completely unstable on live television, she's never going to stop. The revelation that Linda had found a lawyer willing to take her case hit me like a physical blow. As my wedding guests laughed and danced just 50 feet away, completely unaware of the legal nightmare brewing, I felt the careful boundaries I'd spent 2 years building start to crumble. Mrs. Chen, Marcus said quietly, there's more. My contact at Brennan and Associates says Linda presented them with a folder of evidence, bank statements, printed Facebook posts, even photos. Photos of what? David asked. Your wedding. She's been documenting everything today, the venue, the decorations, your dress. She's claiming it proves you spent her money on an extravagant celebration while she suffers in poverty. My phone was buzzing with a steady stream of notifications. The local news interviews had gone viral on social media, with hashtag wedding drama trending on Facebook and Twitter. Most of the comments supported me, but Linda's version was spreading too, shared by people who only saw her tearful clips without context. A text from my boss at Harrison Marketing made my stomach drop. Asterisk Rachel, HR needs to speak with you first thing Monday. We've received several calls about an employee involved in elder abuse. I know this is probably nonsense, but we need to address it officially. Asterisk. She's going after my job now, I said, showing David the text. Someone called my work claiming I'm abusing elderly people. David's phone rang, his law firm's managing partner. He stepped away to answer, but I could hear enough to know it was the same issue. Linda hadn't just doxed us on social media, she'd actively called our employers with her accusations. Ma'am, Marcus continued, Brennan and Associates typically works on contingency, meaning they only get paid if they win. The fact that they took her case after a 2-hour consultation suggests they think she has something. But she doesn't, I said desperately. Everything she's claiming is documented lies. Legal proceedings aren't always about truth, they're about what you can prove in court. And Linda's been creating a paper trail all day, emergency room visits, police reports, witness statements from people who only heard her side. Through the French doors leading to the reception terrace, I could see Sarah approaching with a concerned expression. She'd clearly been fielding questions from guests who'd noticed the news vans and police cars earlier. Rachel? Sarah slipped inside, immediately reading the tension. People are starting to ask what's happening. Your Aunt Carmen just showed me Linda's Facebook posts, and honestly, some of the family members who don't know the full story are getting worried. Worried about what? About whether Linda might actually be telling the truth about some things. She's being very specific about dollar amounts and dates, and you know how convincing she can be when she wants to be. David returned from his call, his face grim. The firm's insurance company wants to meet with me tomorrow. They're concerned about potential liability if a client's family member is making public accusations about elder abuse. I stared at him in disbelief. Your job is in jeopardy because my mother is having a public meltdown? Not in jeopardy, but complicated. The legal profession has strict ethics rules, and accusations like this have to be investigated even when they're obviously false. Marcus's earpiece crackled, and he held up a finger while listening. After a moment, his expression grew even more serious. Mrs. Chen, we have a problem. Linda just posted a new video claiming she has smoking gun evidence that will prove everything she said. She scheduled a Facebook livestream for 8 p.m. tonight, right during your reception dinner, where she says she'll reveal documents that will shock everyone who thought they knew the truth. My legs felt weak. What documents could she possibly have? Unknown, but she's been very specific about the timing. She wants maximum impact while your guests are still at the venue, still watching social media coverage of today's events. The wedding reception I'd dreamed about for months was turning into a three-ring circus, with Linda as the ringmaster orchestrating each new revelation for maximum disruption. Even worse, she was succeeding in planting doubt in people's minds, including family members who should have known better. She's going to destroy us, I whispered, finally saying out loud what I'd been thinking all day. Even if we prove she's lying about everything, the damage will be done. Our reputations, our jobs, our relationships, she's going to burn it all down because I wouldn't let her come to my wedding. But as I stood there watching my mother's latest manipulation unfold through Marcus's tablet screen, something inside me finally snapped. Not into panic or despair, but into crystal clear resolve. Marcus, I said, my voice steadier than it had been all day, I want you to contact Channel 7 and tell them we'll do a live response at 8 p.m. Right here, during dinner, with our wedding guests as witnesses. David stared at me. Rachel, what are you thinking? I'm thinking Linda wants to play this game in public? Fine. Let's play it in public. I pulled out my phone and began scrolling through 2 years' worth of saved screenshots, voice messages, and documentation I kept as evidence of her behavior. She thinks she has smoking gun evidence? I have a nuclear arsenal. Sarah's eyes widened. You kept everything? Every manipulative text, every threatening voicemail, every Facebook post where she badmouthed me to family. Plus bank records, trust documents, police reports from her previous incidents, even testimony from her ex-boyfriends about her pattern of financial manipulation. I looked around at my 3 allies, my new husband, my best friend, and the security expert who'd made this day possible. Linda wants to destroy my reputation? Let's see how hers holds up under real scrutiny. Marcus was already making calls. Mrs. Chen, this is risky. Once this information is public, there's no taking it back. Good, I said firmly. I've spent 2 years hiding from her chaos instead of exposing it. That ends tonight. At exactly 8 p.m., as my wedding guests enjoyed their salmon course, Channel 7 set up cameras on our terrace. Linda's Facebook livestream was projected on a large screen, showing her sitting in what appeared to be a hotel room with papers spread across the bed. Tonight, I'm going to show everyone the real Rachel, Linda announced to her audience of nearly 3,000 viewers. Starting with this bank statement proving she stole money that was meant for my medical expenses. She held up a document, but before she could explain it, Kevin Walsh's voice cut through the audio feed. This is Kevin Walsh with Channel 7 News, broadcasting live from the wedding reception where bride Rachel Chen has agreed to respond to these allegations in real time. The camera panned across my reception, 127 guests who'd put down their forks to witness this unprecedented family showdown, their faces a mixture of concern and anticipation. Linda, I said, looking directly into the news camera while Linda's livestream played on the screen behind me, that bank statement you're holding shows transactions from 2019, when you were still the custodian of my trust account. Every withdrawal you're calling medical expenses has a corresponding ATM receipt from casino locations. I held up a folder thick with documentation. I have photos of you at Mohegan Sun on the same dates you claimed to be in the hospital. I have text messages where you bragged about winning $300 at blackjack using Rachel's college money. I have statements from 3 different casinos showing your players' card activity. Through the livestream, I watched Linda's face go pale. She'd clearly expected me to deny or deflect, not to present counter-evidence. Those are fabricated, Linda stammered. Fabricated by 3 different casinos, the Connecticut Gaming Commission, and your own social media posts? I pulled out printed Facebook screenshots. Here's your post from March 15, 2019, sometimes mama gets lucky at the slots. Thanks to my emergency fund for a fun girls weekend. Posted the same day you withdrew $1,200 from my trust account for alleged prescription medications. The livestream chat was exploding with comments as viewers watched Linda's smoking gun evidence crumble in real time. My wedding guests sat transfixed as 2 years of suppressed truth finally came pouring out. Linda ended her livestream abruptly, but the damage was done. By morning, #WeddingDramaExposed was trending, with thousands of people sharing clips of her contradictions and my documented responses. Brennan and Associates dropped her case by noon the next day. But the real victory came 3 months later, when Linda sent a single text, "I'm getting help. I'm sorry." I never responded. Some boundaries, once built, are worth maintaining forever. My marriage, however, started exactly as it should have, with the truth, witnessed by everyone who mattered, and absolutely no regrets.